This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily for a Tuesday afternoon, a game day Tuesday. The Heritage jerseys back on the Winnipeg Jets tonight, and the St. Louis Blues in town for a 7 p.m. puck drop at Canada Life Centre. Lots to get to on today's show, including the biggest story in Winnipeg sports, and that is a media story. We'll get to that in just a second. But we will set up tonight's tilt with the Jets and Blues, as well as talk about what's happening in the Central Division so far this season, and get a little bit more on the visitors with Lou Korac of NHL.com coming up in about 20 minutes. Quite a bit from Paul Maurice today. We'll have that for you as well. And a little bit later on the program, very much looking forward to welcoming in our old pal Greener, Josh Green, former NHLer, former member of the Manitoba Moose, and now assistant coach along with James Patrick of the number one team in the Canadian Hockey League, the Winnipeg Ice. Greener's going to join us. We'll talk about their incredible start to the season, some of the young players that you're going to want to be seeing when you head out to the Ice Cave to see the club. And as a matter of fact, I think we'll have some tickets to give away as well for tomorrow's game over at, excuse me, I just nicked my mic there, over at the Ice Cave as we get going. I'm going to bring Michael Remis in here to get things going. But as always, thanks to the sponsors that make it happen every day here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, including our newest sponsor, Vita Health Fresh Market, Culligan Water, Manitoba Battery, Royal Sports, Not Autocorp, Little Brown Jug, Princess Auto, Boston Pizza, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, our friends at Canadian Club, and of course, our betting partner, Coolbet Canada. Let's get it going and welcome in the CTO, Michael Remis, as I welcome in everyone with us live on the YouTube stream. What's up, everybody? And what's up, Remo? There you are. Are you muted?
Yeah, it's muted. One sec. Sorry, I switched USB cables yesterday, so I had to reselect my microphone. Yeah, I'm here. But trying to do a bit of a dramatic delay. I'm here. Hey, everyone in chat. What's going on? Pumped for a game day. Yes, the Jets are wearing the Heritage jerseys. We've had a couple people ask. They need to have this schedule us pinned. When are the Jets wearing the Heritage jerseys? Because people want to know. I've been asked a couple times, and I did post it in a comment on our Facebook page. I'm just trying to remember. So I think a couple times this week, but they do have the Heritage keychain. November 11, 13, 16. Also today, November 9, December 14, 17, 19, January 15, 16, March 15, 18, April 2, 6, and 8. So 14 times. It's great. I'm looking forward to seeing those beauties tonight.
Wow. So, yeah, I guess we're going to get him tonight. We're going to get him Saturday night against the Kings. And then to finish up the homestand with the Edmonton Oilers coming into town next Tuesday. That is going to be a hot ticket in town. And then the rematch between the two clubs coming up on the 18th of November. Another interesting note tonight, speaking of the Heritage jerseys, Remo, neat little giveaway for fans attending tonight's game. The Heritage license plate keychains. I guess the new Heritage license plates are available if you're getting new plates on your whip. But today we'll have the keychains given out. And I guess I did bring those up, those infamous Kings keychains from the final regular season game of Jets 1.0. I'm not sure these will be the same when it comes to a historical item. But I'll tell you what, they look pretty good. The plates that I've seen on cars look awesome. We know how good the jerseys are. So nice little trinket for people to pick up if they're in attendance tonight for the hockey game that starts at 7.
Yes, first 10,000 fans. So get there early and get your Heritage keychain. I'm going to find a picture. I'm curious what the license plate is going to be for today. The license plate keychain giveaway. What's the plate number? Is it JH0001 or something?
Go Jets, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah.
Schickster in the chat is I'm not sure whether Gregory was asking for the rules and regulations of going to the game tonight, but he's got the tickets. the Vax cards, the empty plastic bottles are okay for water.
He writes that every time, Schickster.
Nicely done, Schickster.
Keeping
Nicely
people
done.
in the loop. Yeah, don't want to be that guy, Huss, who goes to check in and you got nothing ready. Like, you got to have your wallet. You got to have your tickets, your Vax card, your ID.
It is so easy. I will tell you, I've been to a bunch of the games so far as a fan. And I know the first game was a bit of a gong show because people, it was the first time. But I got to give credit to True North the way they've handled things. I mean, they expanded they let people come in a half an hour earlier. I think that, maybe alleviated some of the rush, at least when doors opened. And now, honestly, I mean, with the scan code on your phone and, then a few steps before you have to give your ticket. I mean, I just put the ticket into the Apple Wallet. It couldn't be much easier. It's gone really smoothly so far, and it's been far better than I expected. And that's important because we are getting into some colder weather in the coming months, and that's not a time where you want to have to be sitting for 10 minutes outside any building to try to get in. So all in all, it's been great. Now, listen, we're going to get to the Jets and this game tonight. We'll talk about it with Lou. We'll hear from Paul Maurice. All of that coming up a little later on. But we have to start today with the biggest story in Winnipeg sports, and it's not something that happens on the field or on the ice, but the pending retirement of the legendary Bob Knuckles Irving, the voice of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for 50 years. And it was announced earlier today. There's a great piece. I'm not sure if we've got any of it, Reem. We'll maybe to play for people between Bob Irving and Ed Tate, which was done at bluebombers.com. But Bob is, an icon. I don't think even begins to describe his impact on this sporting community here in Manitoba. And he was so much more than just the voice of the Bombers. I mean, CJOB for decades, really was the go-to station for everything: news, sports, weather. And certainly they're still doing a great job of that again, especially regaining the Jets' rights and, always being the home of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But Bob was the sports director. But you want to talk about an incredible career. Bob is 71 right now, looking great, by the way, and has been at the station for just about 50 years. I, for one, was so happy that the Bombers won in 2019, and I was happy for Mike O'Shea. I was happy for all the players, but I might have been as happy for Bob Irving as I was for anybody that was actually in the organization, because Bob has been the guy that has been, essentially the mouthpiece, the conduit between the action and the fans, both during games, through the coaches show, through covering the team for over 40 years. And he felt that 29-year drought and heard about it as much as probably anybody in the organization. So to have the Bombers get to the top of the mountain and win it in the way they did was so special for so many people, for this city. But I personally was just so happy to see Bob there, being able to, be a part of that Grey Cup championship. Of course, we'll all remember what went down at the Forks. Bob emceeing in a, one of the most incredible celebrations our city's ever seen. And it was pretty awesome to have him come back for another season. For things to end, with the Grey Cup and then a canceled season, I don't think was the way anybody wanted it to end. And I think, he and so many of us wanted to see what this team was capable of going forward. But I have to tell you, on behalf of fans of Winnipeg sports, we have an incredible gratitude to Bob Irving and what he has done on the air and in the community since the early 70s. As long as I have been alive, Bob Irving has been a staple of and I imagine it's the same for most people that are listening to this right now, whether you're on podcast or joining us on YouTube. And while the world has changed, the information, people get it from different ways, there's no substitute for a great play-by-play man. And Bob Irving has been exactly that. And Reem, I have to say, and I tweeted this out earlier, it's a great job, and the honor of being the voice of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers is something that whoever gets that gig going forward will be proud and excited to have. But you want to talk about big shoes to fill? Honestly, this is like being the guy that calls the Dodgers after Vin Scully retires. He is synonymous with this football team And that voice is synonymous with summer and sometimes fall and winter, listening to, the sights and sounds of Blue Bomber football. And there was no way we could start off talking about anything else other than this news today, which I think for people around the football team and the station didn't sound like it was a surprise that had been planned at the beginning of the year. But I got to tell you, as I tweeted today, I mean, there's no one that's done it better. He is has set the bar when it comes to calling Canadian Football League action. There will be no bigger shoes that anyone will have to fill in this league in a broadcast booth. And I'll tell you what, the only appropriate way to send Bob Irving off into retirement is with another Grey Cup ring after getting the job done and defending the cup on the 12th of December.
Yeah, very, very well said, Huss. I don't have much else to add other than it's, amazing, that anyone could hold the same job for that long. What Voice of Mars, for you say 40, is it 47 yees? Like 50 years in broadcasting. That's unbelievable. Yeah, total legend. You compare him to Vin Scully or, talking about replacing, I remember when they had to replace Bob Miller as voice of the Kings. I mean, just you associate his voice with the Bombers, tuning in. I mean, for as long as, I've been alive, a lot of other, most people, but it's, yeah, I mean, it doesn't, I think we had heard, rumors that he was thinking about it, but it doesn't become official till you see, the stuff that Bombers are putting out on social media. They've done a pretty good job. You mentioned the interview with Ed Tate. I think there's some other clips of him interacting with players and stuff in the past, but yeah, it'd be awesome to see them win another one. And I agree with you. I mean, the win in 2019, and you don't want to go out on a canceled season. Seems like he talked himself into coming back for one more, and he was ready to call it quits after this one. So congratulations. What an incredible career. And yes, absolute legend. And the outpouring of support by everyone on social media has been awesome to see as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I know, and Ryan was mentioning some of the other all-time greats. I mean, Don Whitman with Winnipeg Roots. I mean, when it comes to, it was synonymous with the CFL, from a television standpoint. But I mean, the thing with Bob is, I mean, Bob was not, doing all the other games. He was ours. I mean, he was the voice of Winnipeg. He was the Winnipeg Blue Bombers play-by-play guy. And, of course, the sports director for CJOB, which was, with the exception of a 10-year spot where there was actually another station doing sports, really the spot. And you think back to Primetime Sports and Vic Grant and, so many of the incredible people at that station through the years on both the Bomber sides of things, the Jets side of things. I mean, the one constant from the early 70s when he was just a young 20-something until right now has been Bob Irving. I mean, if the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are playing, you're turning the radio on to 680, and it's Knuckles going to be doing it. A lot of people asking about the Knuckles, and I mean, we will certainly try and get Bob. Bob's quite busy right now covering this football team, but I certainly hope we'll be able to get Bob on, just talk about his incredible career. I mean, I'm sure they're doing quite a bit of that at OB. And the funny thing about it is, Bob will be the last person, frankly, that wants to do that. But I think he understands how special he is and how beloved he is in this community, and will have to do that, or will do that begrudgingly, because he is as modest and humble a man as you will ever meet. And I think a lot of this attention sometimes, sort of makes him feel a little bit uneasy, because at the end of the day, that job as the play-by-play guy is really just delivering what is happening on the field to the folks at home, in their cars, in their tractors, at the beach, wherever you're listening, that big sound on the AM dial over at 680 when Blue Bomber football is. But, with that comes a very special relationship. And, for the people like, and again, incredible Hall of Fame broadcasters, we'll just use a guy like Don Whitman. When we think of Don Whitman at the Olympics, CFL fans certainly think of CFL and Grey Cups, but a bunch of other things. When you think of Bob Irving, and vice versa, when you think of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, you think of the connection between those two, and that connection with Winnipeg fans. So I, for one, Remis, was not at all surprised to see how, when that was made official today, the amount of love for Bob that was outpouring on social media. And my God, I mean, it's very rare. I mean, I'm sure you're the same thing. The amount of text messages I've got on this topic today, both about the incredible run that Bob's had, as well as who the heck could possibly fill the shoes of Bob Irving going forward into next year's season for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And that is going to be something I think everyone will look for. But honestly, whoever it is, folks, you're going to need to cut him some slack because there's only one Bob Knuckles Irving. He's the only guy that most of us have ever known call Blue Bomber football. And it really will not be fair for whoever takes that job into week 1 of next year's regular season, to judge him and hold him up to the standard that Knuckles has been doing in the booth for the Hall of Fame career that will end at the end of this season.
Yeah, I can't imagine the pressure of the guy being the guy who follows Bob Irving. There are some people in chat, Huss, who say that you should be the guy. I'm not sure your play-by-play experience. I know you've been doing some work on CWE broadcasting.
Yeah,
calling
that's
it
right.
Canada's
what a stepping stone, jumping in to do wrestling with Dave Petro and ending up in the Canadian Football League. Hey, that's flattering. That's flattering to everyone. And I will tell you this, if I ever did get into that sort of a situation, I would be a much better local broadcaster than I would be, like a TSN or Sportsnet guy.
Yeah.
And Bob, to Bob's credit, I mean, Bob is as fair and balanced, but he knows who's listening to him. I would probably, and to be honest, I mean, part of the reason why I love Paul Edmonds so much as well is that Paul, has that excitement and that passion for the club that I really think home broadcasters should have. But Bob Irving's in a whole league of his own. And as I said, whoever gets that opportunity going forward, as I said, the shoes could not be bigger to fill. But it's been such a great run. We're all privileged to have had Bob Irving be the voice of Blue Bomber football throughout our entire lifetimes. We have to give the new guy, whoever it is, or girl potentially, who knows the direction that they go next year, a fair shot because, as I said, there's only one Knuckles, and what an incredible run it has been. And let's hope for damn sure that that December 5th game is not the last call for Bombers, not the last Bomber game of the season, but the last one at IG Field. And of course, one more in Hamilton to try to go back-to-back, defend the cup, and after a 29-year drought, send Knuckles off with the way that he should be, with another incredible celebration for both the football team and this wonderful year that they've had, as well as the wonderful career that he's had since the early 1970s. On CJOB. All right, we are going to be talking hockey in just a second. We've been talking some football and we're off the field. But of course, Bombers going at it with Montreal. If you missed the lock shop earlier today, Dustin Nielsen and I got in on that. I'll tell you about a great Coolbet contest. If you do play at Coolbet to win a couple tickets to the big game on December 12th in Hamilton. But before we get ready for a little Jets Blues talk, do want to thank our newest sponsor, Vita Health Fresh Market. Man, it's great to have Vita Health on. Many of you are familiar with Vita Health. You probably didn't know that they're a great local company that's been in business since 1936. Speaking of great runs in Winnipeg, perfect segue going from Knuckles into Vita Health. 85 years of empowering people to lead healthy lives. The Vita Health, now with 7 Winnipeg locations, is stocked with Winnipeg's best selection of local, organic, and natural groceries, supplements, and beauty products, all at great prices. And it's not just the products there. They've got experts and knowledgeable staff that are trained on all of these products, both from the supplement side, as well as some of the things that you might want to be adding into your diet to live a more healthy lifestyle. If you're into organic produce, local grass-fed meats, a great grab-and-go deli with Vita Market salads and sandwiches, this is the store for you. And it's a good time to remind everybody that November is Men's Health Month, and Vita Health carries products to support prostate, energy, libido, stress management, and more. Vita Health Fresh Market, now on board with Winnipeg Sports Talk. Great to have them. 7 Winnipeg locations, including their newest store in Linden Ridge, and online at myvita.ca. And if you are planning on hosting for the holidays, I tried this. My buddy Ryan hooked me up with a couple of these. The Sober Carpenter non-alcoholic craft beer. I know there's going to be a lot of events happening in and around the holidays. Never a bad idea to have some non-alcoholic options for friends. Vita Health's got a great selection of those as well. Find out more online at myvita.ca or pop by any of the 7 Winnipeg locations. And speaking of health and whatnot, there's nothing that can do more for your health than a good, steady dose of great water. And Culligan is the water experts in Winnipeg for 65 years. When it comes to water softeners, drinking system, bottled water systems, bottled-free systems, as well as water delivery services citywide, the Culligan man has been the person that Winnipeg has been counting on for 65 years. And it's not just for your home and for your family, your office as well, commercial and industrial water services available. It's all there at Culligan. Whether for your family or for your business, go to drinkculligan.com, check out everything they've got available, or go and see them at 1200 Sargent Avenue, or give them a call at 694-5180. Big thanks to our friends at Culligan for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. And just before we get ready for Blues and Jets, we'll get charged up with our friends over at Manitoba Battery. The snow is apparently coming. It's just around the corner. We might, in fact, get it tomorrow. And that means winter is just about here. Don't be that guy that waits till it's minus 35 for your new battery. This is automotive battery season. The rush is already coming. Get the best price on a battery in town with Manitoba Battery. $89.50 picked up with Core Exchange over on Logan Avenue, or save yourself the trip both to Manitoba Battery or to one of the big box stores and pay more. You can get it delivered within city limits. $109.50 with a $15 recycling rebate when the Core is returned. Go down and see a Manitoba Battery, 1026 Logan Avenue, or online at 204, or the phone number 204-783-8787, and check them out online at manitobabattery.com. All right, first visit of the year for the St. Louis Blues coming into town to take on the Winnipeg Jets. And all you got to do is look at the standings to realize what an important early season game this is. The Blues 1 point up on the Jets with the game in hand, just behind the first place Minnesota Wild. And to talk about that, we bring in Lou Korac covering the Blues for NHL.com and more. Lou, what's going on? It's great to talk to you again.
Good to talk to you. How are you?
I'm well, and I'm looking forward to this game tonight. And I will tell you, the season started off, well, a number of teams like the Jets and Blues. The Central's been spending a lot of time out in California. Didn't start off so well for the Jets with a couple of early regulation losses, but they certainly have turned around with some better play despite missing some players. And, it's hard to, not look at the St. Louis Blues and see what they've done so far this season and realize that this is a heck of an early season matchup between two teams battling near the top of the division, which is exactly where they'd want to be. Just so far, well, how would you categorize the Blues' start coming into this strange season after everything that happened last year, not playing in the Central?
Yeah, it's weird. And what's even stranger is they've started off their schedule playing pretty much the same teams they played all throughout the West last year. So being back in the Central, all they've had is the Chicago Blackhawks so far. And as crazy as it sounds, we were in the building for that game, and it was like, man, finally just to see somebody other than the Kings or the Sharks or the Ducks. And it's Arizona, same thing. It's been that way for the early season start here, and I think they've been, they couldn't have asked for a better start. I mean, you're 7-2-1. You're sitting in a pretty good spot right now and dealing with some COVID issues, obviously, here. So it's a little bit of adversity at the moment right now, and they had a bit of a hiccup in Anaheim the other night, and I think it was reflective on some of the guys that were out of the lineup. And getting Ryan O'Reilly back after missing 4 games, I think you can tell maybe he was still searching for his legs a little bit. But all in all, through 10 games, you've been able to grab 15 out of 20 points here so far. I think the Blues have been pretty happy with their start.
Yeah, it is kind of amazing. I mean, we thought that the Jets had played, all in the Pacific. But I mean, looking at, I guess the Avalanche are technically a Central team. That was the opening game of the season. The Coyotes now in the Central. There was that one game against the Blackhawks. But other than that, I mean, you've had 3 against the Kings. I mean, the Ducks, the Sharks, and that's basically what the Winnipeg Jets have been doing. And it's kind of funny to see them within a point of each other coming into this game so far. Lou, from afar, one of the most interesting things of the offseason when it came to the Blues was this saga of Vladimir Tarasenko. I mean, those of us that have been following this team through the Central, have known how deadly he's been, what he's been able to do when he's been at the height of his playing skills. but injuries have taken a toll. And then it seemed to be somewhat a tumultuous summer with him wanting to be traded. I think the contract, the injury all played into the inability of Doug Armstrong to do it. I mean, how would you take us back to the summer and how that thing went? How did you feel it might go coming in, and how has he been so far now that he's back in the lineup and playing?
Well, to be honest with you, I was one of the many that felt like this wasn't going to be a marriage that was meant to last. And, going into the season, you're thinking it wasn't a question of if, it was a question of when was Vladimir Tarasenko going to get traded. And and come to think about it, the Seattle Kraken could have had him for nothing. To be honest with you, he was left exposed for the expansion draft, and they chose to pass on him instead, taking the young defenseman Vince Dunn for their lineup, which you can't fault them for doing that either. All things considered, when you talk about Tarasenko coming off of 3 shoulder surgeries, it's quite a big risk. But he made it be known that he was healthy and that he was over that, and that he was ready to play hockey again. And when things didn't materialize, you wondered how this was going to play out in the locker room. And again, to be honest with you, I was one of those where, if this guy is my teammate and he doesn't want to be my teammate anymore, then I don't want him here. So I think the guys in the locker room have embraced it, have embraced him, and he's come out with a great start here. I mean, he's had I don't want to say surprisingly great attitude, but his attitude has been fantastic. When nothing materialized here, I think he just realizes, listen, I've played with these guys, many of them, my entire career. Let's make the best of it here, whether it would be for his own personal benefit to try to enhance his trade value as the year goes on, or maybe he just realizes, there's going to come a time where time heals all wounds. And there was some bitter and some ill-related feelings there between the two sides, and can't say that I blame him one bit. I would not be one that would want to go through that as many times as he had to, and probably didn't need to go through, but such is. And he's off to a fantastic start and playing really well, and probably playing as well as I've seen him play since the Cup year when they won it. So I think the situation that they're in right now, they're going to have to keep him here. And to be honest with you, I don't see them trading him anytime soon, just because of how well he's playing with some of these guys and just how things are working and how well the team is playing.
Yeah, I think a Tarasenko trade was a lot more likely when there was so much uncertainty, not when he's more than a point-a-game player and a big part of a team that's battling for first place in the division. And, this is an unknown. I mean, this is a guy that was a huge part of a Stanley Cup championship team. But, you alluded to a few of those things. I think for our listeners, if you can take us back, like, where did all this start? How did it go wrong? Why was he trying to get out of St. Louis?
I think it just basically had to do with the fact that, he felt like that his not the first one that was inevitable. He initially injured his shoulder in the last game of the regular season of 2017-18. And then you go through a grueling rehab. And I've talked to many people that say that the shoulder rehab is just nothing that anybody wants to go through. It is a pain, literally. And for him to have to, he came back, he's ready to get into the bubble and start playing. And for whatever reason or not, he just didn't seem like everything was the same. So he winds up coming back to St. Louis, and they reevaluate things and realize that something had went awry again. And apparently the second shoulder surgery that he had after he hurt it again, I believe it was October 24th of 2019, real early at the start of the 2019-20 season, that he was going to have to go through this all over again. And I guess they had disclosed and found out that there was more there, and not necessarily was repaired what needed to be repaired there. And to my understanding, it was more rotator cuff related. And that's where I believe some of the distrust came into effect, where perhaps the Blues didn't feel like he was gearing himself and getting himself ready enough to be ready to play again. And I think it basically boiled down to a trust issue for Tarasenko and from his camp, and that's where it all plays into effect. It has nothing to do with his teammates. It's more to do with the medical team, training staff, management, coaching staff, everybody above him. So this was a pretty ugly situation at the time. A lot of it kept on the inside, but obviously with the agent switch to Paul Theophanis, a lot was disclosed in that regard, and that's where a lot of this boiled down to. I know I'm speaking a lot here, but it's quite a big story, and
Wow.
not everything has been smoothed over, boiled over, but I think some of it has been simmered down. Let's just put it that way.
Well, you know what? They always say that winning makes even the most unhappy people in better moods. And they have been winning games. And maybe just as importantly, Tarasenko has been a big part of that. I mean, 10 games into the season, has he exceeded your expectations so far? I imagine he probably has exceeded most people considering the question marks going into the campaign.
I think so. I mean, you saw him come back in the playoff series last year against Colorado, and it just didn't seem like he was quite to where he needed to be. And for obvious reason, he's just coming back from a third shoulder surgery. And obviously he went out to Colorado to get that one done. And that one was done in absence of the Blues medical team there. He got it done independently, and apparently things went well. And you could see that he's back to pre-shoulder injuries again, and he's got that speed. He looks leaner out there, and really enjoying it. It started off before they had to switch up some of their lines here. He and Robert Thomas and Ivan Barbashev, probably one of their most consistent lines at the start of the year here. I mean, just dangerous in all situations when they're put out on the ice. And he's back on the first power play unit where he likes to be, and they're utilizing him in as many situations as they feel like that he can help them out in. So it's been a pleasant surprise. Now, again, whether he's doing this for his own benefit to try to boost his value, that remains to be seen. But I'll be honest with you, if I'm Doug Armstrong right now, there's not a chance I'm trading him unless I just get a through the roof offer that you can't refuse.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, with the way he's playing, that offer will be a lot better than it would have been in the off season, because there was obviously nothing that was going to make Doug pull the trigger on it. And now we're seeing what he's done so far this year. Lou Korac is with us, getting ready for the Jets and Blues tonight. First matchup of the Central Division rivals of the season. Puck drop, 7 p.m. Jets wearing the Heritage Blues tonight for the first time at home this season. I wanted to ask you, we'll get to some of the other players and the way things look tonight, but, to me, and a guy that we've been talking a lot about on the program this year is Jordan Binnington. And I mean, I will call him a bit of a hothead. He does get a bit of a hothead at times. I mean, let's be straight. But he's a guy that's, been to the top of the mountain, authored one of the great stories in NHL history with his, bursting onto the scene and finishing up the season, holding up that Stanley Cup trophy. But he's also a very, a prominent guy when it comes to the upcoming Olympics. Canada, with Marc-Andre Fleury's play, Carey Price's availability. I mean, if you want to talk about the Canadian Olympic roster, that's the one area where, it's not sort of automatic. You've got all these guys battling for it. I mean, tell us about Binnington's season so far. And is that on the radar for him? Is that something that he's mentioned? You covered the team closely. How important is it for him not only to play well and win right now for his team, but also to be in the mix for Beijing?
Yeah, he addressed that with us a couple of weeks ago when we had talked to him on a Zoom call one time. And he said that it would be quite an honor for him if he were chosen for that. But the typical Jordan Binnington, he wasn't going to overblow it, basically boiling down to that he's going to let his play dictate the decision there. And so far, his play has been really good. He's kept them in every hockey game that they've played in. The other night against Anaheim, when they lost 4-1, was probably their only really clunker of the year, and one where it was still in the balance there in the third period. So he's kept them in every game so far. A couple of games where he's played really, really well, where they've been able to, grab 2 points off the table when maybe they weren't at their best. So can he be better? He's always going to tell you that there are moments in games where he's going to be better, but I think the numbers right now are reflective that he's off to a pretty good start, and I think he understands that there's an opportunity here for him to grab one of those spots for the Canadian Olympic team, and whether he's using that as some motivation or not. I would say probably he is, but I think from his own personal goals here, I think he wants to just right the ship a little bit as it's gone astray for the last couple of years, where it started in the bubble, where things kind of started going downhill a little bit, and last year probably wasn't up to par of a season that he would have liked. But I think you can say that for a lot of the team. I mean, they were just ravaged with injuries, and his play and some of the other guys' play was pretty reflective of their year when they went 27-20-9. But I think all in all, the Blues couldn't have asked for more out of Jordan Binnington so far.
Now, I mean, Binnington is the guy for St. Louis, obviously. But, while we're in the net, Winnipeg native Joel Hofer got his first NHL start, first NHL win earlier with the club right now. Tell us a little bit of what you've seen from Hofer so far, and how much is he enjoying being part of the best league in the world?
Well, I mean, as a 21-year-old, you got to love it. And they thrust him into a situation where they knew he was going to have to probably get in a game here, with Ville Husso being one of those guys that's on COVID protocol right now. And, they put him in a tough spot in that game against San Jose by taking a number of penalties early on in that game. And he's down 1-0, but I thought, he remained pretty calm in net, and made some timely saves in that game when the Blues finally started to get their footing, and in the end, they were able to get the win. And he gets a point too, as we talk about it too. Gets an assist on the empty net goal to put the game away. So didn't get a ton of work in the game, but enough to where they were going to have to rely on him. So, and they're really high on him. They like the body of work that he's provided so far, and I think he raised a lot of eyebrows with what he was able to do for the World Junior team that wound up winning the gold medal when he stepped in and played goalie. So all in all, they know that they have a solid, bona fide third goalie there waiting in the wings. He's gotten off to a good start in the AHL, and the Blues have high hopes for Joel Hofer moving forward, and so far off to a good start.
Yeah, I guess the plan is when all his healthy is, they'll be getting him a plenty of more pucks on him in the American Hockey League. But still nice to see the Winnipeg native had a pretty great junior story show up in the National Hockey League and get win number 1. Speaking of guys on COVID protocol and injury, you mentioned Ryan O'Reilly returning to the lineup. I can tell you my fantasy team is waiting for Brayden Schenn. Fill us a little bit on the health of the Blues heading into tonight's game against the Jets.
Well, the COVID protocol is what's got some of these guys down. Torrey Krug's out, Nico Mikkola, the two defensemen, Ville Husso. Craig Berube said today that looks like he'll be able to start skating with the team again on Thursday when they come back and they host Nashville. And Kyle Clifford should be able to come back here. So they'll get two guys off here in the next couple of days. And, Krug and Mikkola are going to have to miss at least 3 more games each, being the required minimum 10 days. So Oscar Sundqvist has been out for the entire season, and I think they're really looking forward to getting him back because he's been on injured long-term IR with the ACL tear that he sustained last year, and has been working with the team for a number of weeks now, going back to training camp. And technically he's eligible to come off of LTIR for tonight's game, but again, it's one of those cap-related issues where they're not going to be able to bring him back for tonight's game. Not that he would have been ready anyway, but just the mere thought of having him available is going to be a shot in the arm for this team. And Brayden Schenn, you're kind of on pins and needles with that one. When they're sending a player back to get reevaluated, you tend to think that this is going to be a longer-term injury than what they initially thought. It was a game against the Blackhawks that they played back on October 30th and gets tripped up and goes crashing into the backboards. And, they're saying upper body injury, and he was able to come back and play one more game in another period and left after that first period of the Sharks game last Thursday. But when a guy like Braden Shen is not able to grin and bear it and gut it out, you know that there's something got to be going on there. So the Blues are kind of holding their breath right now as he's being evaluated by team doctors. And within the next day or so here, they're going to have a better idea of what kind of an injury he's dealing with and how long it's going to be.
Right on. Lou, this has been awesome. Hey, just before we go, we've talked a lot about the guys that we, think of as the Blues, the star players, the Tarasenkos. Certainly David Perron in his third stint continues to be, an incredible story. What about tonight for Jet fans that, we didn't see the Blues all last year? There are some new players. I'm thinking in particular Pavel Buchnevich and James Neal, it looks like, is on the fourth line. Just fill us in quickly, if you would, on some of the newcomers in the Blues lineup that will be on the ice tonight for Craig Berube.
Yeah, you mentioned Buchnevich. He got off to a pretty good start, and then obviously he had the 2-game suspension for the headbutting incident in Arizona, and kind of finding his footing, getting back into the lineup here. He's part of an all-Russian line tonight with Barbashev and the young 2017 first-round pick, Klim Kostin, who's gotten off to a decent start here in his first full NHL season. And James Neal's been one of those guys that's been a good find for the Blues. I think he's kind of rejuvenated and revived his career here. He told us that he had a bout with COVID last year, and that really, really bogged him down. And I thought it was interesting when we talked to him a couple of days ago. He said this is his, just conditioning wise, this is as good as he's felt in probably the last 4 years. I think he understands what his role is on this team. He feels like if he can provide some of that veteran presence like a Pat Maroon provided them a couple of years ago when they went on their Stanley Cup run, maybe James Neal could be a good fit here. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Brandon Saad. Got 4 goals in his last 4 games. Playing really, really well for the Blues. He had to sit out 4 games because of COVID as well, but jumped back into the lineup last week out in California and playing on the top line with O'Reilly and David Perron tonight, and really fitting in with the fabric of this team, really replacing the production that they're missing when they lost Jaden Schwartz to free agency.
Lou, listen, this has been great. Cannot wait to see the Blues again, get a great Central Division matchup here in Winnipeg. Hopefully we can do this again a little later on when these teams see each other again. But good to get out of the Pacific, I think, for both teams and get back to some familiar rivals tonight in Winnipeg. I really appreciate you joining us. Enjoy the chat.
Hey, thanks, Andrew. No problem. And yeah, I'm looking forward to these Central Division the true Central Division matchups. Really looking forward to it.
Give him a follow on Twitter if you need more info on the Blues at L Korac 10. That's Lou Korac covering the Blues for NHL.com. Coming up in about 5 minutes, we are going to get to the Winnipeg Ice. Our old pal Josh Green is going to join us. But Remo, quickly, let's. And I know we're going to hear more from Paul Maurice. We can get into this a little bit more later. But these lines are going to look a little bit different tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. Mark Scheifele in, but no Paul Stastny tonight. And that sounds like it's going to be a big opportunity for Jansen Harkins.
Yeah, that was the news today. We were all waiting to see if Mark Scheifele and Paul Stastny would be on the ice. And here are the lines as I bring them up. Scheifele was on, Stastny not. He blocked a shot off Neil Pionk's stick. Sounds like it's something minor, nothing too crazy. So I think he'll be back, but big opportunity for Harkins. We do have some changes as we're not going to see the 7 defensemen, 11 forward lineup. We're going to Christian Vesalainen. They called him back from the Moose. He'll slot in on the 4th line. And Connor Hellebuyck, as you expected yesterday, Huss. They didn't make it official, but they did today. He's back in goal. And I think he's going to bring some of that baby swag with him. First game as a new dad. I don't want to say expect a shutout, Huss, but we've seen what baby swag can do for athletes in other sports. And Hellebuyck could add to the legend of baby swag here tonight.
Well, we certainly hope that will be the case. We'll have more on that. We'll hear from the coach a little later on in the program because we are going to get to the Winnipeg Ice, 14-1, number 1 in the Canadian Hockey League, and do it with a great friend of the program. Just before we do that, I do want to give a shout out to our friends at Royal Sports, sponsors of Winnipeg Sports Talk since day one. The number 1 and really only place you'd ever need to go in Winnipeg when it comes to licensed merchandise for your Winnipeg Jets, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, as well as your favorite NFL, NHL, Major League Baseball, NBA teams. It's all there with the most. I mean, if you've never been to Royal and see the amount of inventory there, it almost needs to be seen to be believed. But it's not just incredible stuff for you to wear to games. It's also what you need to wear on the ice. They've been the undisputed heavyweight champs of all things hockey for over 35 years in this city, with millions of dollars of inventory for both goalies and forwards alike. And snowboard season as well. They had the big snowboard sale a couple weeks, but stock is in, getting ready for you to hit the hills. Of course, you can find out more on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina, or pop down and see them at 750 Pembina Highway. Of course, our friends at Knott Auto Corp, like Royal, have been with us from day one. Trevor Knott and the gang over there have lots going on, including the opening of the Winnipeg Car Lab. Everything you need: wraps, rims, tinting, striping. They'll do it there now for you. But when it comes to, if you're looking for a new vehicle, there's nowhere else you should start at. Why not get into the vehicle of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Knott team? Go see them at Waverly and McGillivray, or check them out online at knott.ca. And of course, is game night. You might want to pop by if you're thinking about a couple cold ones before the game. Try Little Brown Jug over on William Avenue. Taproom's just a wonderful place to meet with a friend, and actually it's a very close walk down the street to Canada Life Center. When you are popping by Little Brown Jug, though, make sure you can pick up the Great Taste of 1919, the Winter Variety Pack as well, including the new Double, just an amazing fall beer. Or you can get them online at littlebrownjug.ca. Find out about their upcoming events, all the services, home delivery, as well as a great place to book your holiday party. There's a link there on the events page that'll take you right there. Big thanks to Little Brown Jug for their support of us. And coming up, we'll do something a little special with the Little Brown Jug gang for their 5th anniversary. All right. Let's get to, we'll stay on the ice. We'll get back. We'll hear from Paul Maurice a little bit later on. Busy night in the NHL. We'll get to the Boston Pizza scoreboard. But right now, let's welcome in an old friend, a familiar face, and a familiar voice to listeners of our old station. Here he is, back in the coaching game, ice assistant, and our pal, Josh Green. Greener, what is up? It's great to have you on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Us, how's it going? Thanks for having me on. What an intro. I appreciate that. And I just want to congratulate you on your show as well. I think I read the other day it was a million hits on YouTube. So best of luck moving forward, and congratulations with your success so far with the new show. And obviously not a surprise for me that you were able to catch on somewhere else and be successful. So you and Remo done a great job over the years, and I'm glad you were able to continue it.
Well, hey, dude, I thank you very much for that. I mean, I think we knew with what happened and how sudden it was. I mean, you may close one building, but I mean, the fact of this city being sports crazy, there's a demand for this. And, we have to thank the sponsors that make it happen, but mostly the people that are joining us every day, that more and more are filling up our chat talking about your Winnipeg Ice. Holy smokes, what a start to the season. I mean, how would you... Let's take it back before you started. I mean, you come in, you were working with the Blues, now you're with the Ice. Great opportunity for you personally. I think you knew there was some talent on this club, but could you have imagined it starting the way that it has so far, with you guys being really the team to beat right now in Canadian junior hockey?
Yeah, it's been an incredible start, and honestly, the credit goes to the players. They've changed the culture of this team over the years. It's taken a while, and I got to give credit to the head coach, James Patrick, as well, for when he took over, I think it was 5 years ago, while still in Cranbrook. There was certainly a change that needed to happen within the organization, and he's done an incredible job of changing that culture, setting a structure in place that now the kids buy in every single day. They know how to play. They know what we're asking of them. And, it's been an amazing transformation. And I've been here 3 years now. Last year I was in the bubble. The year before that was my first year with the team, kind of in a lesser role. Now I have a little bit more of a prominent role on the bench, for the whole game. My first year, I was eye in the sky for the first 2 periods and come on the bench for the third. But the kids that we have on this team are incredible character. Nobody works harder than these guys do at their game, on and off the ice. So it's just been a pleasure to come to the rink every day and work with these kids who are, like I said, buying in and trying to get better every single day.
I mean, hockey's been a part of your life. I mean, really since you were a little kid. I mean, you stayed in it. You talked about sort of working through the coaching ranks, but you mentioned James Patrick. I'm interested to know, and we've spoken with him before on this program. I mean, his resume speaks for itself. But I mean, what has been like for you to learn from a guy like James Patrick, and tell us a bit more about that sort of culture that they developed, and really the expectation to go out and come away with 2 points pretty much every night you guys hit the ice.
Well, that was the hope going into this season, that we knew we would have a good team. We knew we had some veteran players. We knew we had a couple young guys that were going to be in the upcoming draft. First rounders, hopefully. We don't know where, but like I said, just an amazing group of kids. I've learned so much from James in my 3 years. I always knew that following my playing days, I wanted to get into coaching. I didn't realize how much actually went into it. I thought I could just seamlessly, get into the American League or get into pro, but it was communicated to me early that I would need to start kind of near the bottom and work my way up. And you mentioned I started with the Blues in the MJHL. Shout out to Billy Keane, who took a chance on me and hired me, and I learned a lot there. Was able to make the jump to the WHL and then hook on with this team and with James. And John Clem was here a couple years ago as well. Learned a lot from him. So just being able to sit in the coach's room and listen to what they have to say and how they strategize for each game. There's just you don't know how much actually goes into it until you're kind of part of the process. So for me in my coaching career, I owe everything to James and what he's taught me and what I've just been able to witness, on the ice with him teaching the kids and get his message across to them. There's certainly a way of communicating to these kids. It's one thing, like I can think in my head, I know how to do some things, but now how do I communicate that to the kids in a way that they understand and they can apply it on the ice. So it's been a work in progress for me, for sure. I've learned so much over the years. I've got to learn so much more if I want to continue up the coaching ranks. But that's the goal for me, is to continue to get better every single day, much like the players.
Josh Green, ice assistant with us here, talking about the number one team in the Canadian Hockey League. Hey, just before we get to, I want to ask you about some of the players on the squad right now. You mentioned about that change in culture to the expectation of winning. Certainly on the old station, even early on when we started Winnipeg Sports Talk, we're talking about the ice and the bubble. It was impossible to talk about the ice and that change without talking about Peyton Krebs. He, of course, no longer now in the NHL, well, now in the AHL, I guess, after being part of the Jack Eichel trade. But I mean, you were around this young man. I was so impressed every time I spoke to him, and you talk to other people around hockey, and everything they say about him is sort of a coach's dream in a way. I mean, can you just for a minute, how much of an impact does he still have on this group? And for the leaders that are now the leaders without him there, how much did he sort of set the bar for what's expected of a nice player every day, both on and off the ice?
Well, his example lives on in our group today. It started with him. He was named captain when he was 17 years old with this franchise. Doesn't happen often, and that just speaks to the character of Peyton to be named a leader at such a young age. But everything he does on and off the ice is what a pro would do. He's the hardest working guy in practice every single day. He takes care of his body away from the rink. He is as driven as an athlete as I've ever seen, and James would say the same thing. So a big reason for our culture change was Peyton Krebs. And like I said, the things that he did while he was with this organization, his habits, the way he lived his life carry on in some of our players now that carry that torch, like Jake and Smallwood, like Owen Peterson, like Connor McLennan, like Carson Lambos, are leaders now. You go back 3 years, and a lot of the things that Peyton did back then, our players, our new leaders are doing now. And it'll just continue to carry on through the years. Now Jake and Carson and Connor will pass that down to some of our younger guys, like Connor Geekie and Matt Savoy and Zach Benson. And that's what we hope will continue with this organization. That's kind of the standard that we've set here and the bar that we've set, and we expect that to continue. But like you said, a lot of a lot of that change with this organization has to do with Peyton.
Well, and you can't say enough about him, because when Peyton Krebs started as a member of the Ice, I mean, we weren't talking about a team that was number one in anything other than maybe giving goals up. I mean, the turnaround in this club that happens in junior hockey, I mean, it is somewhat cyclical, but you need to have those core pieces that buy in, that sort of lead the way as they go. And you mentioned the 17-year-old captain doing what he's done at every level. It's not surprising, to be honest, from the outside looking in, to see a young man, with that sort of a resume, skills on and off the ice that set the example. And, now we're seeing some fruits of that, albeit him not being there. So this team's 14-1 right now. I mean, every day I see another release from Munzie talking about the WHL leaders. I mean, it's almost unfair to single a guy or two out with the way that this team is playing. Well, let's talk about the guy at the top of the list right now, Mikey Milne. I mean, leading everything. He's got 12 goals, 23 points in 15 games. And of course, Matthew Savoy, who is one of the top prospects for the upcoming draft. And I guess Connor McLennan, by the way, speaking of great chats, I mean, we had him on the program a couple months ago. What a fun conversation that was with this young man. I mean, fill us in on the guys that have been, battling each other at the top of the Western Hockey League scoring so far, and how well it's going for them, but what more they have to give as you guys continue through the season after such a great start.
Yeah, and honestly, for our group, it starts in practice. There's a healthy competition amongst these guys. They want to be the best they can be. They compete like you wouldn't believe in practice. They have pride. They never want to lose a puck battle. They don't want to lose anything at all. So, that's kind of what we want in practice. We want to practice hard and we want to practice fast, and these guys buy into that. But I think a major reason for our success this year is just the depth that we've had, that we can just roll out four lines and kind of wear teams down and create matchups that are favorable for us because we do have the depth. And, I know the third and fourth lines, so-called, don't get as much ice as the top two lines, but we are so comfortable putting them out in any situation. And it's, for a coach, it's easy because you're not overly worried about matchups. I know in the past, James has talked about where he's been, in his first couple of years where he had a fourth line that maybe he couldn't put out on the ice, for a defensive zone face-off on the road because he was worried about what the other team was going to do. But we have no fear of that this year because, we've got veteran guys on our third and fourth lines. We've got guys that are playing in those roles that on any other team in the league could probably play, second or third line or even first line at times. So it's an amazing transformation of our roster. It's hard to keep everybody happy and give everybody the ice time that they probably deserve. And that goes with the power play as well. We've got guys that don't play power play that on any other team would be playing on the power play. So it's a good problem to have. It is a bit of a problem at times, just trying to keep everybody happy and keeping them engaged. But like I said, the character of this team, everybody kind of knows their role and know their whatever role that they have on this team. They know that they're a part of something, hopefully really special here in the near future.
Well, it's a hell of a lot easier to have that role in a team that wins every night. I'll tell you that much. And that's pretty much what you guys have been doing night in and night out, with the exception of one so far. 14-1 through 15 games, the number one team in the Western League and the number one team in the Canadian Hockey League. I mentioned Connor McLennan. I've spoken with him, spoken with Carson Lambos a number of times. Both got a chance to get to NHL camps and then come back to the Western League team. What's that like from a coaching, especially when you've got, a bunch of younger players that aspire to be like them, that want to hear their name drafted, that want to get that opportunity? They're there playing with the best players in the world and they come back. I mean, I guess there's always a sense of, you don't like to get sent back. But, with the talent on this team, I imagine that was probably a good thing for this club to get back leaders like that, knowing that they're completely committed to what you're doing, despite the fact that, they got a chance to, see how they're fitting in on their path to the National Hockey League.
Yeah, 100%. I think you hit it right on the head there. Obviously, anytime you go to a camp and then come back to junior, there's got to be a little bit of disappointment. These guys know that they're going to be pros one day, and this is just a step in the process. I think it was so important for them to get to an NHL camp, to to rub shoulders with pros and see how they work and practice, see how they go about their daily business. And I mean, Gage Alexander is another guy who went to an NHL camp drafted by Anaheim, I think in the 5th round. And now you're facing shots that you're probably not facing in junior. So I just think the experience that they had going to those camps served them so well coming back. And now they can take some of the lessons that they learned at these camps and bring them back to this team and to show our guys, this is what it takes. This is how hard you have to work. This is, how you have to apply yourself on the ice and take care of your body off the ice. And they've come back, and there's no egos with them. They come back and they just put their head down and they work hard, and they're great teammates. And that's a major reason why we're having success this season in particular.
Let me ask you about two of the youngest players on the club. I mean, Matt Savoy, draft eligible this year, expected to be a first rounder. And Zachary Benson, I remember talking with him last year. He got a chance to play in the bubble as a 15-year-old. I mean, I'm looking right now. He's got 8 goals and 17 points in 10 games so far. I mean, you've got some pretty good veterans that are getting the job done, but tell us about these youngsters and just how impressive they've been at this early point in the season.
Well, Zach Benson is probably a guy that hasn't got the attention that he probably deserves because we've got so many other high-profile players on our team. And you mentioned Savoy and Geekie, who are draft eligible this year, Carson Lambos, who was a first-rounder. But I'm telling you, Zach Benson is as complete a player at 16 years old as I've ever seen. We can play him in any situation. He can play on any line. He's a smaller player, and I think last year, especially in the bubble, we were worried about putting him up high in the lineup because then he's got to play against 19 and 20-year-old bigger, stronger players. He has no problem with it. He always puts himself in a good position. He's got a great stick. He can penalty kill. He plays on our power play. He plays in every situation. And maybe that's been a good thing for him that he's got some higher profile players on his team that take the attention away from him, and he's been able to fly under the radar. But he doesn't for us as a coaching staff because, we watch the games. We watch the games back on video, and he just does so many good things out there on the ice. It's incredible for a player that young to have that understanding of how the game needs to be played positionally, where he needs to be. He's one of the smartest players I've come across in junior so far.
Hey, how much? I mean, just take us back to when you were 16 years old and you're playing in the WHL. I mean, how different is it now? How much more prepared are these young players when they come in at 16, at 17, to not just sort of get their feet wet as Western Leaguers, but to contribute right away?
The game has changed so much. I have to go way back to when I was 16, but I do remember. I made Medicine Hat as a 16-year-old. I wasn't expected to. And I didn't really know what I was getting into. It was a big, strong league. There was lots of fighting. And I know my parents, they hummed and hawed about it. Like, I don't know if we want to send this guy, my son to Medicine Hat, actually still 15 at the time. But I was able to figure it out, but I certainly wasn't as prepared as these kids are today. They have agents, they have financial planners, they got all that stuff. They know how to eat right. They know how to take care of their body. All these things that I had no idea even existed back then. I was just a kid from Camrose that was going to Medicine Hat to try and make the team and, see what happened, and ended up staying. But
you didn't have a personal nutritionist when you were 14, 15, Greener?
I needed one. I'll tell you that much. I remember my height was 6'2", and I think I was 160 pounds back then. So I was a string bean and had to grow up fast. Yeah, that's exactly what I needed. But these guys are so much more prepared coming to the WHL at a young age. And with Zach even playing as a 15-year-old, he knew how to play the game. He knew what to do on the ice. The physicality wasn't an issue for him. It was like he was prepared for that going in. And that's a big difference from now to where it was when I played junior.
Josh Green, assistant coach with the Winnipeg Ice, our guest on Winnipeg Sports Talk. I have to ask you, from a coaching standpoint, it's pretty clear that the expectations were high for this entire organization coming into this season. Whether you could have expected to lose one of your first 15 games, but here you are. You're the number one team in the Western League. You're the number one ranked team in the Canadian Hockey League. What sort of challenges does that pose the coaching staff? Because it is a really long season and there's so much more work to be done. Do you ever worry, or do you do things at all differently when you're having this much success to make guys realize that we haven't really won anything yet, although we want you to keep playing the way you're playing right now?
Well, we talk about it. We understand where we are in the standings and what we've done so far, but like you said, we haven't done anything yet. Nobody's awarded us a trophy. We're not ordering rings. There's nothing like that. If anything, we're trying to downplay it as much as possible. And I'll say we've got the right guy in charge because James does not let these guys off the hook for a second, whether it's in practice. If he feels that they're getting a little loose and not dialed in, then he'll stop it and he'll let them know, because we know that whenever we take the ice for a game, we're getting the best of whoever we're playing, because I'm assuming they're using us as a measuring stick, and they see the rankings. They know where we are.
Are you seeing that now on a regular basis? Teams coming up and maybe more than ever in the past, like, hey, we got to be at our best and we got to give these guys our best shot.
Yep. We see that, especially if we're not ready at the start of the game, because teams are prepared for us. They know that, if they're going to compete with us on most nights, they need to bring their best, and that's what we're going to get every single night. So that's a main focus of our meetings in the morning and our pre-scouts and all that is, okay, let's be ready, because they're coming. And a lot of teams are, they come at us hard. They play physical against us because we are a smaller, I guess, skilled type of team, whatever you want to call us. But I like the way we've handled it this year. We've had some pushback. We're not fazed by, if games get a little rough or there's more physicality than others, we can win a bunch of different ways now. And but yeah, to answer your question, we are seeing that now. We did at the beginning of the year too, just with the group that we had. We knew we would be good, and I think other teams knew that we were solid, and nobody's given us a night off. We've had to earn everything we've gotten, and give our players credit. They've been ready for that challenge every single night.
Hey, Greener, just before we go, and it's been so great catching up with you again, and congrats on the early season success. Keep it going. Tomorrow night, the Lethbridge Hurricanes are in town to play the number one team in the Canadian Hockey League. A lot of people have been to games, a lot of people talking about it. Just give a quick plug, just for how good the hockey is, and if people come out to the Ice Cave, the talent they're going to see wearing the Winnipeg Ice jerseys and representing our city in the WHL.
Well, we'd love to see that building rocking over at the U of M on a nightly basis. We have great support. It's a fun atmosphere to come to these games. There's mascots walking around. There's music. It's a really good atmosphere. It's really fun. And then we try and provide a good product on the ice for everybody that comes on a nightly basis. You get a chance to watch some future stars of the NHL and Connor Geekie and Matt Savoy and Carson Lambos and some really talented players. It's a great time at these games, and like I said, we'd love to see that building packed on a nightly basis.
Some future coaching stars as well on the bench, if I do say so myself. Hey, buddy. Great stuff. Thanks so much to Munsey for hooking this up. All my best to James, the rest of the squad. We would love to do this again sometime, but in the meantime, just keep making it happen on the ice. All the best to you and the club tomorrow against Lethbridge, as well as through the remainder of this homestand.
Okay, Huss, I really appreciate you having me on, and best of luck to you as well. Appreciate it.
Right on. Thanks so much. There it is. The Greener himself, Josh Green. You can follow him on Twitter at JoshGreen204, assistant coach under James Patrick with the number one team in the Canadian Hockey League. And yes, if you haven't seen the ice so far this season, folks, make a point of getting out there. This is, there's just some incredible talent on this squad. We're going to have probably another couple first round NHL picks coming out of this club in Geekie and Savoy. And the Zach Benson that we talked about. I'd never seen or heard of him before last year's WHL bubble got going. And, it was noteworthy at the time that he was even able to play at 15 years old because of the circumstances of COVID. But there he was, not looking out of place at all. And holy smoke, 17 points in his first 10 games this season. You're missing out if you're not getting out to see what's happening at the Ice Cave at Wayne Fleming Arena. And we do have some tickets for tomorrow's game. Stay tuned. I'll tell you how to win those in just a couple minutes. Hey, a big thanks to our friends at Princess Auto, proud sponsors of curling here in Manitoba, as sponsors of Jennifer Jones' team, as well as Mike McEwen's team, as well as one of the Pinty's Grand Slam of curling events. And in addition to being, great supporters of curling, the Bombers, Gold Eyes, and so much more, Princess Auto is, of course, the place where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. Visit them at one of 2 Winnipeg locations. And of course, they are a national company, but headquartered and family owned right here in Winnipeg. A perfect connection with Winnipeg Sports Talk. Or start thinking about your next project and browsing around. You can do that 24/7 over at princessauto.com. A big shout out to our friends Nick and Nikki in the Nick and Nikki DQ group. Great news for the St. Vital community because the St. Anne's DQ, which would always close around this time, it ain't closing this year, folks. St. Vital people are going to be able to get their blizzards, those amazing burgers. They got a new steakhouse burger that I've got to try. You're going to have to hit up Nick for one of those before WST one of these days. But they're going to be open all year long. Of course, they do have the other 3, the DQ in Niverville, the DQ in Northgate, both with drive-thrus, as well as the Dairy Queen at Polo Park. But the DQ St. Anne's will be open year-round and will also be available for all those treats if you don't want to leave the house at Skip and DoorDash and much more. And of course, the demand for DQ cakes goes all year long. Hit them up on Instagram at DQ Manitoba. Order in advance. They'll have your custom DQ ice cream cake ready to go for you to pick up at any of the 4 Nick and Nikki DQ locations. And, we'll get to the BP scoreboard right now because I do want to hear from Winnipeg Jets head coach Paul Maurice. But Boston Pizza, when there's a busy game with lots of games on, that's the place to be. Center ice so you can get all the big games and a lot to get to tonight. We'll hit some odds later on, but Ottawa at Boston, LA at Montreal, Carolina at Tampa Bay, Florida at New Jersey, Edmonton at Detroit. The game we'll be seeing here in Winnipeg tonight. Jets hosting the St. Louis Blues. The Penguins are in Chicago to take on the Blackhawks. San Jose at Calgary. Anaheim at Vancouver. And we finish it up with the Seattle Kraken taking on the Vegas Golden Knights. Whether you're popping into Boston Pizza and enjoying those ice cold schooners and Boston's wings or getting it at home, Boston Pizza is always ready for game time. You can order online at bostonpizza.com. All right, let's get Remis back in here. We are going to hear from Winnipeg Jets head coach Paul Maurice. At some point before the end of the program, we'll get to the debacle that was last night's Monday Nighter. But Remo, man, what a great conversation with Greener. One of my favorites from back on the days of game days, hanging out with Kevin O after our show. I mean, just a heck of a guy. I mean, a hockey lifer. And man, he's in a great spot right now with an incredibly exciting young team that really is the talk of junior hockey in this country.
Yeah, we keep hearing updates in chat. The Ice are number 1. They just keep running over everyone. It's pretty awesome to see that we have yet another team in Winnipeg that's doing so well. Bombers leading the way, Jets having success, with Moose too off to a decent start. But the Ice has potential Memorial Cup team, and they had the shortened season in the bubble last year. No playoffs, but they will award a champion. We're definitely keeping our eyes on. I still have to get out to a game. I know Greener's saying it's a good time, but great to talk with Josh. Always enjoyed seeing him in the old station. And I did look at his stats back in 93-94, his first year in Medicine Hat. 44 points in 63 games. Impressive numbers for a guy who didn't have his personal nutritionist.
Yeah, well, I mean, barely 16 years old. I mean, just cracking it. And yeah. I mean, I can only imagine what it was like for parents back then, to have their, young kids going into the Western League, which I think, all of junior hockey was frankly a lot more violent back then. And you kind of knew what you were signing up for, which might be getting your head kicked in a couple times, which, to be honest, from a parent standpoint, not really that appealing. But this Ice team right now, they are doing it with incredible skill. It'll be interesting to look back at this squad right now in 5 or 6 years and see how many members of this team are playing in the National Hockey League. I mean, I think we could be talking about, well, more than a handful. You've already got a few guys that have pretty much got the inside track to be in there. Got a couple first rounders this year and a couple of young men that aren't even eligible for the draft that probably will be there as well. Well, that's all part of being a team that's 14-1 so far. Tell you what, we've got 4 tickets for the game tomorrow night for the Ice. And let's do it this way. If you would like to go, whether you're listening on the podcast right now or you're with us live on YouTube, send us an email to winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. Just let us know. I would love to give it to a family or someone that could bring some young kids that haven't had a chance to see the Ice. Maybe you don't get a chance to see the Jets because of the cost. We've got 4 tickets to the game. So let us know who you'll be taking, why they'd be great people to take to the Ice, and we will give out 4 tickets to tomorrow's game. Make sure you include your email. I assume it'll be the same, but we'll be sending the tickets to that email for our winner, and hopefully we'll get some of you set up tomorrow night to see the number 1 team in the Canadian Hockey League look to go 15-1 against the Lethbridge Hurricanes out at the Ice Cave. And again, go to winnipegice.ca. You can get tickets, information on the team. They're in the midst of a pretty extensive homestand, so there's many more opportunities to see the Ice than just tomorrow night, but we'd love to send you there. So winnipegsportstalk@gmail.com. We'll pick a winner from the emails, let them know, and send the tickets out electronically. All right, well, it's a great conversation on the Ice. We had a lot of fun talking about the Blues, the visitors tonight with Lou Korac a little earlier. But right now, let's get back to the home team. Lots to get to with Paul Maurice today based on health, availability of players, a bit of a roster change, and the end of 11-7, at least for one night, going back to 12-6. Let's hear right now from the Jets head coach, Paul Maurice. He spoke after the morning skate today, heading into tonight's 7 o'clock puck drop, where his team will be wearing those sweet Heritage Blues. Here's the coach on Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Because Mark comes back.
Oh, sorry, one sec. I gotta fix this. Hold on, Huss.
All right. Well, we were ready to go for the coach, but
I was ready to go. I just have to change one thing on my computer. Okay, now we're golden. All right, I'll do.
All right, without further ado, head coach Paul Maurice.
Yeah, there you go.
Just why tonight?
Because Mark comes back in, and I want to make sure that. I mean, he says he's 100% ready to go, but when you got some injury concerns, just want to make sure we have enough for us, so we'll go 12 tonight.
The latest on Paul Stastny, we would imagine.
Yeah, so nothing changed for him. The tests are good, so it just didn't feel like he could push today. So we didn't want to put a skate on him, and when he already knew that it was still pretty sore. It'll take a little while for the swelling to go down, the pain to go away, and then he'll be back, but there's been no setback.
Kyle is just optional?
Optional, yeah.
So with that 12-6, Paul, would Paul Stastny also factor into that because of his presence on that power play unit?
Well, we got other options with 12, right? So we'll bring Vesline and then Nash in, and I like what Nash has done. It gives us a right-hand shot on that unit if we want, or we can put one of the other guys there. But really the 12 is just, I got some minor injuries like everybody has, and I just don't want to get to 9 or 10 guys early in the game. When we can get through it, I'm not worried about it. All those guys can handle the minutes. It just seemed like a good time to just have some coverage.
How has Brandon Saad changed the dynamic for the Blues? I mean, you've seen him a lot in the division over the years here.
Well, I don't know that it's that much because I never felt they were lacking necessarily in what he brings. It's just more of it. So I would say that, there's been subtle changes in their personnel. Petrangelo's out, but they've got skilled defenseman. Crew comes in, and they got enough bite in their lineup. They always have. I find them to be a little bit quicker, and some of those guys, there's a little more skill, it looks like, into that top 9. Some of those guys are moving the puck a little bit different. I wouldn't say there's necessarily more risk, but they make plays. So real good counter team. If you turn the puck over, they're going to be defensively structured well, and then they'll counter very, very well with some quickness. So if you take the penalty killing numbers off, and I like our penalty kill over the last 5 or 6 games, the rest of those numbers are almost identical between the two teams, right? We've about 37 goals. We've given up about 8 more, all of them on the kill. 5 on 5, I think the spread is equal We're 1 goal apart on both, but the spread's equal. So both teams can skate, both teams can make plays. There's a little bit of banging in both teams. They got some size on both teams, so this should be a good game.
You were pretty sure that Connor was going to give us a hint that Connor was probably going to go,
Yeah,
but he
he's
felt
going.
real good and he's anxious. So.
Yeah, he's playing.
As far as Mark goes, he's had some, it's been a little bit weird, obviously. He's a couple of weird interruptions. You know, one
Yeah.
is, I mean, we're in a pandemic and he gets caught up in it. He gets a suspension from last year. He's still going to serve. And then a little bit of a bump in the road here, although he'll play. How does he handle things?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, the suspension he knew, so that wasn't unusual. I'm sure that the quarantine drove him nuts because he was basically symptom-free through the whole thing. And playing hockey is what he does, right? That's the best part of his day. So I think that bothered him. But he's just happy to be back at the rink. Injuries, that didn't throw him. I mean, he was pretty certain after the last game that he was going to be all right, and then came back in the next day, and he was sure in his mind yesterday he was playing because of the amount of improvement. And then there wasn't any question before he hit the ice today that he was going to go, and he just nodded at me once, and that was it.
Well, you've talked about the difficulty coming off the West Coast twice
Yeah.
already this season for your club.
Yeah.
Is there anything to take advantage of St. Louis in that scenario?
I don't know. They got a 2-day block on that, right? Coming back in between their games, so they're not stacked up in games. So I think when you go back to back, there's more of a challenge. We won't expect anything less than their best. I mean, we came back and I liked our Dallas game, so I've kind of liked how we've come back. I always thought it's not so much you're worried about that first period of your first game back, and then it can just as easily be good. It seems like if you're doing it a bunch of times in a row, as I said, we had some guys doing it 4 times that month. It's the next day and the next day you just kind of lull a little bit, right? Try to get that energy back up. But I think the older you are, the less it's a concern. Right? Guys know how to. Players stop expecting to feel good when they come to the rink as they get older. They accept it, right? This is the life. My body feels lousy, and that's life in the National League.
Jensen Harkin's kind of bounced up and down the lineup, and he'll come in, I guess, tonight for
Start, yeah.
Stastny is. What's the challenge there for him? Like, he's always got to be ready. Some nights he's not playing a lot. Tonight he probably plays a lot more. How do you evaluate a guy like
That's
that?
the challenge in that environment. So my expectation isn't for a guy that's maybe you don't weigh it any differently than a. So a guy who's playing 20 minutes a night, over the course of time he's going to have some good nights and he's going to have some bad nights. But usually they have way more good nights, right? That's why they're in the higher up. So what I try to do is just measure the things I like in the shifts that he has against the things that I don't, and can we correct those a little bit? So that's kind of where he's at in his career. We're mindful with him of not showing him every mistake that he makes, and certainly talking about some of the good things he does. He can bring energy, he can bring speed. What happens after that for Jansen? We'll just watch and learn as we go. But that intensity that he can play with, and when he's at his best, he does play with, that has to be kind of the standard for him. So that's what we're working right now, whether he plays 6 minutes tonight or he plays 12 here tonight. Can he get to that standard? He's a strong man. He skates hard. He can be physical. We're not looking for him to run around and make that what he does for a living, but he needs to have a certain amount of physical intensity in his game. We think he can shoot the puck. We think he can make plays. We'd like him to think of himself as a shooter first, because he's usually not playing with a line or against a line that's going to allow a lot of plays to be made. Because if you're running against the other team's fourth, they're not making any mistakes either, right? It's a tight game for him. And then you're looking to try to maybe recognize when he gets going a little bit. If there's an opportunity to move him up and give him a little more, you do that. So I haven't minded his game, but I feel the same way about Vesalainen and Toninato. I feel the exact same way. And if one of them gets going, they're going to get that shot too.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems that Jansen often has very good training camps. And then I'm not sure if it translates as well to that. And that might just be because he's playing a lot of minutes every night in training camp. He comes into the regular season, it's back down to 6, 8 minutes, whatever it is.
Right.
Am I wrong on that assessment, or
No.
is it just not?
No. So what he has done with good training camps is given himself. He hasn't fallen back then in the regular season, but the role that he gets is the one that he's earned. He's earned. You get into a fourth line hole. there's a major, and you know it, but you know, I've had players over the years say, I don't understand, I'm in the top 3 scoring every year in training camp, and then I'm not. And then it's because the other team's best isn't out there either. You know, when it all shuffles down, I don't think that his play's changed. I don't think that he falls off after training camp. His opportunity's less, and the league is a lot different.
Why did you Paul give him this opportunity right now to be on that line with?
Speed.
Why was he the right one?
Speed. For me on that. I think he's quicker than the other guys. I think that that Nicky can use some speed on that offside wing with the center underneath. Stas doesn't need to be fast to be a really good, effective player, but a little bit of speed on that line would help.
Well, on the matter of minutes and guys getting used to new rules, are you comfortable now that Svechnikov is able to play that 15 to 16 minutes at a fairly high level, or is he still working himself?
Yeah, he's still working into that role, and that and this is a positive, not a negative, but there are going to be other people that may get a chance to look in that role over time. I mean, there is a certain amount of production responsibility that comes from playing on the top 6. You have to produce some numbers. At the same time, you don't get to do that and be minus 12. Right? Like you've got to be able to do both. So he is there on the starting point because he's the most natural right winger, and he had a good camp. He had a really good camp, and he's a natural right winger, so away you go. If those two guys, Casey and Pierre-Luc, keep their plus minuses right, and I'm not necessarily the one that's listed, it's chances for and chances against is right, and those guys are producing numbers, then I won't try to overthink the chemistry, why it works and why it doesn't. It just does. But I think Kristen Vesalainen can do some things on that line as well. Big, strong, moves the puck, and maybe we start to see the offense that we know we had coming into the National Hockey League in the past. So, and Jansen Harkins, I mean, now you're taking a guy and putting him in his off position, but Ves has been running on that off position now for a bunch of games, so that's all part of Ves playing the right side. Can he make the jump into a top 9 role? So there's competition for that job. Right now, Svech has it, and as long as those guys produce, I won't think too much, but if they stop producing before I necessarily split those two guys up, I might throw a different winger up there.
How do you evaluate Scheifele's line right now with the way that it's being utilized and just the way that it's constructed with Adam on one side? Is it beyond just looking at
I mean, this is all for those guys now. Now they will have to produce points at some point because that's part of the pressure that they're under. But that can't be the first thing. I look at those lines as what do they do for us, and then what does it do for the rest of our team? Because if I can get Kyle Connor out, not against their best, and and Andrew Kopp for that matter now, and Doobie for that matter, those 4 guys don't have to run against the other team's best. And it's different. So if you're running a checking line against the other team's best, they aren't running their 1-2 defensemen behind that, which is a positive because you've taken their 2 maybe at most offensive defensemen and taken them away from their most offensive line. Every team's different, but that's just a general idea. But if you're running Scheif and Wheeler and they're dangerous and they're big and they're physical and you have to put your 1-2 out there against them, that means they're not playing against those other guys. And that makes a huge difference for scores in this league. It's why all of those young kids that we had put up so many big numbers at a very young age because they didn't have to play. If I didn't run Lowry's line there, it was Scheif and Wheeler and somebody on the wing until Kyle became a strong enough player. And then Patty and Nicky and those guys and even Roslovic put up numbers because they didn't have to play against the other team's best.
Well, they have a clearer timeline on Dylan Samberg?
He's in red tonight, so he's going to get bumped around here a little bit. And if he feels good tomorrow, he'll somewhere in the next day or two, he'll get the green light.
All right, there's the coach, Paul Maurice. Lots to get to coming into tonight's game. Back to 12-6, back to rolling a lineup out, led by number 37, Connor Hellebuyck. And first time in a long time welcoming the St. Louis Blues to the newly named Canada Life Center. We'll have more on tonight's NHL. We'll get to the Coolbet Lines in a minute. Hey, yesterday on the program, I mentioned that I was seeing that new incredible Canadian Chronicles 44-year reserve whiskey was out. I was talking to our pal James over at Canadian Club today, and it is, in fact, I was not mistaken on that. The Manitoba Liquor and Lottery's premium spirits release was this past Saturday. For you people that love the best rye from the top shelf, there are less than 70 bottles out there in Manitoba of there. But man, if there's someone that loves rye in the family or in your life, might make a great gift for the holidays, but you're going to need to get it now. Check your local Manitoba liquor marts for the Canadian Club 44, which is out right now. And of course, you can get the great taste of Canadian Club at IG Field and all the CC products at your local Manitoba liquor marts as well. Can't wait for Friday. Regulars will know this, but maybe there may be some people that are popping in on YouTube for the first time. If you are, please do us a favor, hit that thumbs up, and all you regs, if you haven't already, do that as well. Make sure you hit that red subscribe button. And if there's any point of the week you join us, it's the end of the program on Fridays because the marble race goes down. We've got some great prizes with the Canadian Club, including some co-branded Winnipeg Sports Talk CC merchandise, as well as the great taste of CC with the I Love Rye package. So big thanks to Canadian Club for all of their support on the program. We are going to get to the lines in a minute. But you know what? I do want to give not really a shout out, but a WST hug from long distance. Many of you will remember Marshall Paterson, one of the illustrious callers of the post game. I know Marshall is often with us or popping into the chat. Just wanted to give our thoughts to Marshall and his wife Elena, who lost her father yesterday. I know they're listening in if they are today or watching the game tonight with some heavy hearts. But Jet fans that have always been fans of yours, thinking about you guys today. So I just did want to mention that as well. All right, let's get Remis back in here. We'll give it a second before we get to a big night in the National Hockey League. Lots of Coolbet lines. Oh, and a way that you could score 2 tickets to the big game in Hamilton on the 12th of December with our friends at Coolbet. But Remo, interesting stuff from the coach. And I got to tell you, we've had some fun talking about players that have been getting the gears or maybe some heat from people in the chat so far this year. Heading into the season, it was Pierre-Luc Dubois. Early on, it was Andrew Kopp playing in the top 6. Then it was Eric Comrie, who many people thought couldn't get the job done at as a backup. All 3 of those players have had great starts to the season. And dare I say that Jansen Harkins might be that guy that we should be putting in our DraftKings lineup because there's a lack of confidence in Hark's ability to hang with Nikolai Ehlers and Andrew Kopp tonight. That's almost been an automatic big game for a player that's been getting it from some of the people in the chat.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be getting power play time, so I probably wouldn't lean towards Harkins, but I think he has a great opportunity tonight on even strength with Kopp and Ehlers. I mean, if you're playing on the ice with Ehlers, you know he's going to give you a pass when you think that, oh, there's no way this pass is going to get through and land right on my tape, and it does. And, Andrew Kopp, he showed some playmaking abilities the other game as well, but I agree, the chat's track record going back to the summer where they labeled Comrie not backup, and people were messaging us, guys, like, the Jets aren't going to win a game when Comrie's in net. What are we going to do about this bet? Literally got DMs, people saying that they were worried the Jets would not. They're going to drop.
Concern
15,
levels were high.
They're going to drop
were high.
15 games. People said that. Andrew Kopp, not a top line center. Pierre-Luc Dubois, the guy sucks. Gave away line A and got a bag of pucks. So based on the chat's track record, I don't know what Harkins is going to do. You think he's played like 66 NHL games. The numbers.
I'm taking him on principle tonight. I am taking him on principle tonight. I am essentially fading the chat when it comes to the DraftKings Live. And by the way, so many of you are playing with us. We want to do 30-person contests, but the invites don't go out. So sometimes it's harder to fill it. Then Remis makes a 20-person contest and it fills in 2 seconds. So the good thing about the 20-person is if we only have 18 or 19, it will still run. So we just did another. I didn't even get in the first one. I'm in the second one. So if you weren't able to get into the first contest, we do have another 20-person one. It's $3. Top 3 get paid. I will be in, and I'm calling my shot. Harkins is in the list. But just speaking of DraftKings for a minute, Reem, and it's amazing. I was saying this to you off air while we were listening to Coach Maurice. I'm going down the roster prices of the Jets right now, and never in my life have I seen such bargains for the Winnipeg Jets. I'm not sure whether the DraftKings people are completely freaked out by seeing Mark Scheifele on the third line for the Winnipeg Jets, but Scheifele is $4,900 today. And Blake Wheeler is $3,200. Those players were both regularly in and around $7,000 in previous seasons right now. So I know everyone wants to get Connor McDavid in their lineup for obvious reasons. And maybe this is better, and there'll be a lot of Jets content in our contest. But if you actually are playing in any of the big ones with people around the league, and it's a huge night tonight, I will say, I'm not guaranteeing that they do anything tonight, but based on the price, incredible value on a number of members of the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, I was just looking at, you look at, I was looking at the team totals, and I think that their team total tonight was like 2.9, and there's some other teams that have pretty large totals, close to 4, like the Oilers and the Bruins against the Senators. There's one, the Flames against the Sharks. Those are the two big ones, and I think the odds makers, they have the game total at 5.5. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. There are some 6 and 6.5 with the Oilers game total. But, Mark Scheifele, it's kind of crazy. His price, I guess, has been dropping on daily fantasy because he hasn't scored this year. He's played 5 games. He's got 3 assists. He's, on the third, the third line. Can you call it that? I think they've got 3 number ones or 3 number twos.
To call Scheifele the third line.
He's playing power play. He's a focal point of the unit he's on, taking the shots from the dot. He's getting ice time. I have to think it's a matter of time for him. I did see some people here, Huss, concerned about Saturday's game when Blake Wheeler led forwards and ice time. And I know there were some injuries with Scheifele and Stastny going out.
Well, there's a few things, people. It was 7-11. Scheifele and Stastny both missed a considerable period of time. Adam Lowry was in a fight and took a 5-minute major and was out. Wheeler was there and was playing. I don't think that will be a regular occurrence, but I think it's important before anyone gets too crazy about, single game ice time minutes and what happened. You really do need to sort of look back at what happened in the game, what was working, what wasn't working, and maybe most importantly, who else was available. And I think that I'll say this, I think that was a bit of an anomaly. If that continues, I'll eat my words. But, we've seen already that Maurice, with these 3 lines, if everyone's healthy, at least in the games that they've been winning, has been able to keep the ice time very close between most of the players in the top 9. And from what we heard after, the previous games, I think that was something that, he really wanted to do. And from my perspective, it certainly is a good thing for the Jets going. We want to have some competition. The best guys, the guys that are hot, maybe get out there a little bit more. But the bottom line is, you've got 3 pretty deep lines, 1 through 3. And for a team that didn't play their 4th line very much, it was kind of interesting to see. And I was a big skeptic. I hands up on this, the 11-7. I didn't mind it when actually they had 2 extra forwards that, weren't going to be playing very much, as it were, getting out there with a Kyle Connor or a Nikolai Ehlers or a Pierre-Luc Dubois or whoever was going, to maybe do a little bit more when that 4th line was out. So I was very skeptical about the 11-7 experiment. The results were far better than I think what I had expected. All that being said, though, I am looking forward to a little bit more of a traditional 12-6. And to be honest, and this is no fault of Nate Beaulieu, because I think that he's done exactly what the team has expected him to do and playing within his capabilities. But I do think that having just 6 defensemen will be a big benefit, especially to Logan Stanley, who, I think it's been challenging for him to be in and out, going shifts with different guys. He'll be able to, play a full game, presumably with Dylan DeMello in that role, get a little bit more comfortable and keep going forward. So, hey, you know what? It's still early in the season. The bottom line is what you don't want to do is fall apart or have a real ugly run so far. Jets bounce back from a tough first couple games with regulation losses, stacking up a bunch of points. But now both teams coming off a loss. St. Louis lost to the Ducks. Jets lost to the Islanders. This is going to be a really interesting game tonight. I've been looking forward to it for the last couple of weeks. As much as I love the Canadian division, I forgot how much I like these Central Division games. The Minnesota game was wild. The Nashville game was fun. But this is the game that I've been looking forward to see, considering what the Blues, the start that they've had, and the fact that not too long ago they were holding the Stanley Cup above their heads, and they still have the majority of that roster with their club right now. And this is going to be a good test for the Winnipeg Jets and for the Blues, for that matter. As we talk with Lou Remis, it's kind of crazy. Both teams have pretty much played the better part of this season to this point in the Pacific Division.
Yeah, I agree. I've watched a bit of the Blues. They got off to a hot start, but these divisional games, we saw the one against the Wild. I think that was also on a Tuesday. This game also on a Tuesday has divisional battle. Maybe we'll see some of the same fire. The game Friday against the Blackhawks, that was a bit of I don't know, not competitive.
We can't even count that. We cannot even count that as a legitimate Central Division matchup. That game felt like if you had one of those preseason games where the big club plays the American League team or something like that. I mean, listen, the Hawks had no fight. They were, like I said yesterday, it was like they may as well have been skating around with white towels on their sticks because they were not competing. They completely quit in the third period. And, they were essentially saying to management, albeit an interim GM, we need something different. And they cleaned house. A bunch of the coaches gone. Jeremy Colton's guy's gone. They brought up King for the Rockford Ice Hogs. He'll be the coach going forward. But unless there's a massive turnaround in Chicago sometime soon, it's crazy to say, but I mean, their season kind of feels like it's over before it started, especially with what that organization's dealing with off the ice. And then there's the Coyotes, who are about as close as you could get in the National Hockey League to an American League team right now. So, I think we can really start talking about 6 teams in this division that are battling for playoff spots. And, I still wouldn't at all be surprised, Remo, especially with the starts of a team like, the Nashville Predators have had that, to be honest, I was not too convinced would be a team that would be challenging. Dallas, somewhat skeptical. We know Colorado will be there at the end. I think this is going to be a great season-long battle within the Central Division, which makes these games, these head-to-head games, especially at home, that much more important for the Winnipeg Jets. And you add in the Heritage jerseys, a nice giveaway tonight. I'm really looking forward to getting down to the rink tonight and seeing what happens at 7 p.m.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just taking a look here at the Blues lines. We know what we did, the Jets lines. Here's the Blues. I'm on Daily Faceoff. Thank you, Frank Cervelli. We got Brandon Saad on the top line, former Blackhawk, with Ryan O'Reilly, David Perron. And I'm still amazed at David Perron's it seemed resurgence. He went to Edmonton and didn't have a good go with them, and then went to Vegas, and since then he's been great, and he's back with the Blues. Kyrou Thomas, Tarasenko started on the third line, but he's playing close to pre-injury or pre-surgery. He's on the second line. He's got 11
points in 10 games.
Yeah, so if you got him at the end of your fantasy draft, you're probably doing good. Buchnevich came over from the Rangers with Barbashev and Klim Kostin, and James Neal, Bozak, who they signed free agency, and Jake Neighbors. And we got Marco Scandella, Colton Parayko, Jake Wellman, Justin Falk, Callie Rosen, and Robert Bortuzzo. And so maybe this is a defense. They're missing Vince Dunn and Torrey Krug. He's out with COVID. I guess my fantasy. I think I benched him actually. I'm pretty sure I benched him. But that's a big loss for them. And Jordan Binnington in net against Hellebuyck, who's rocking some sweet Heritage gear. We showed the mask yesterday.
Oh, definitely.
I saw a picture of his pads. It's looking pretty sharp. So
yeah, just looking at the injuries. I mean, when we talked to Lou Korac about this earlier, if you popped in late, great stuff on the visitors tonight earlier on in the first hour of the program. But Oscar Sundqvist is out, Torrey Krug out, Braden Shen out, and they are somewhat concerned about Shen potentially going forward. He won't be a possibility until later on in the week. But I certainly gathered from what Lou had to say that a guy like Shen's usually in the lineup with something like this, so this could be something that keeps him out a little bit more. But the other thing, Riemann, this is going to be so weird. We have never seen a St. Louis Blues team come to Winnipeg without Alex Pietrangelo eating up about 30 minutes of ice time. And then you take Krug out as well. You're going to be a lot on the shoulders of Marco Scandella and Colton Parayko tonight, as well as Justin Falk on that number 2 pairing.
Yeah, they're definitely missing. You mentioned Schenn as well. They're definitely missing some dudes. I mean, your top D and Krug, and I don't want to say your top line player and Schenn. Andy McNeil, the digital gambler, DM'd me actually today on Twitter.
Me too. He was looking. He was all over this game tonight.
He wanted to know if Scheifele's like, are they skating? Is Scheifele gonna be in? The Jets. I was looking at the Coolbet Lines. The Jets are, I think, it's close to a pick'em here, but
yeah, St. Louis. Well, let's do the Coolbet Lines right now. And hey, just before we get to all of the NHL, I will tell you, if you enjoy Dustin Nielsen and myself in the Lock Shop, more sports betting content, we just did the Tuesday edition of the Lock Shop before Winnipeg Sports Talk today. So if you go to my Twitter or Dusty's, you'll be able to see it and watch the entire one. But if you're listening on the podcast, just go in, search Lock Shop, press subscribe. You'll get it on Tuesdays and Fridays. But there's a very cool contest, and I know many of you, like me, are into betting, and we do it at Coolbet. We've got a great contest for CFL fans. Now, I can't say exactly what the game is called, but we have 2 tickets for a very big football game in Hamilton, Ontario on the 12th of December that could potentially, hopefully, have a team from Winnipeg, Manitoba playing in that game. And I think you know the one we're talking about. But it's a really simple contest. All you have to do is make a $10 bet on the CFL and post a tweet of it and use the hashtag follow and tag Coolbet Canada and just show your bet slip. Get a screenshot of it and use the hashtag Coolbet Road to Hamilton. And they'll be giving. Now, it's not a full trip with hotel and getting there, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people around here I know that already probably betting the Bombers on the weekend anyways. So if you are doing that and you're using Coolbet, just take a screenshot of the bet slip, hit them up at Coolbet Canada, use the hashtag Coolbet Road to Hamilton, and they'll be drawn for those tickets to the Canadian Pro Football Championship contest closer to the game. And we certainly know that team that we're all expecting and hoping to be in there. And that, of course, is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So that's a great CFL promo they've got at Coolbet. And if you've never played there before, get on it. You'll get a 100% deposit up to $200 on your first deposit. And you need to use the promo code WST for that. Big help to us at Winnipeg Sports Talk if you do that as well. All right. Well, speaking of Coolbet, mentioned the line. Bombers, by the way, right now, 8-point underdogs. 8-point favorites in the game on the weekend against Montreal. I kind of think that number is going to go down. We kind of went into this extensively with Dustin on the program. We're still waiting for reports from Bomber practice. But the fact that they closed practice yesterday and we had a hammer on yesterday, I certainly got the inkling that if there are going to be any players that maybe get a bit of time off, a little bit of rest, it's not going to be in that last game against Calgary. It's going to be in this game this week. So I don't feel as confidently in a big number on the Bombers going in to Montreal on the weekend. And of course, it was a 10-point game here in Winnipeg last week. So certainly, if we see a half of Sean Maguire or something like that, I think that really impacts the Bombers to cover that number. I think I'm going to take the points with Montreal. Obviously, I'll be hoping that the Bombers win. But tonight in the NHL, I mean, you go to Coolbet, you want to talk about making Sean Gitch-Lishka, I'm sure, is cranking out some like 8 or 9 game parlays today, putting $2 on something that's 500 to 1. Just a crazy amount of games. The Sens have been struggling, to quote Joe Namath. Plus 255 at the Bruins. Jeremy Swayman, the rookie in net for Boston. I think the biggest favorite on the board tonight at minus 312. Kings, after that big win last night, pumping the Leafs. They're plus 130 against the Habs. Habs minus 154, getting the Kings on the second end of back-to-backs. Florida, after that loss to the Rangers last night, is in New Jersey. They're still favored, minus 133. Jersey plus 114. The Lightning, a slight favorite. This probably game of the night. I'm really looking forward to Jets Blues, but another big divisional matchup, Carolina and Tampa. And it's weird for Tampa. I mean, they're looking up at both Florida and Carolina in the division. Big chance for them to sort of continue to get back on track. Tampa, slight favorite at home, minus 123. If you like the Canes, you can get plus 105, more than plus money on that one. Edmonton, minus 167, despite Principal Skinner making his first start in net this season for the Oilers. But it's Connor McDavid. This team is just on fire right now, taking on one of the cellar dwellers in the league, the Detroit Red Wings. Red Wings, home, if you like them, plus 140 on the money line. We mentioned the Blues-Jets game, very close to a pick 'em. St. Louis, minus 105. Winnipeg, so slight favorite at minus 111. And then the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Chicago Blackhawks. No surprise that the Blackhawks are underdogs, plus 103 at home. Minus 120 is the number on Pittsburgh. You got the Flames, pretty big favorite over San Jose, minus 222. San Jose plus 185. The Canucks, I do like Vancouver tonight, minus 154, taking on the Ducks, who are coming off that big third period win over the Blues on Sunday night. Anaheim plus 131. And the final game of the night is the Vegas Golden Knights, minus 115. Struggling Vegas Golden Knights against the Seattle Kraken at minus 102. A huge offering of Tuesday night hockey tonight, Remo. Any selections jump out at you? I'll tell you before you give me your picks. I did do a 3-gamer on the lock shop. I'm taking the Oilers. I'm taking the Vancouver Canucks. And I'm going to take the Vegas Golden Knights to get a win back at home against the Seattle Kraken. That one is, you put those together, plus 393, the number on my 3-gamer. What do you like tonight?
Oh, man. I was just looking at daily fantasy, but anyway, I mean, if you want to just look at McDavid props to score, what is it? Draisaitl over 1.5. I mean, he's playing with McDavid, minus 111. I mean, I don't know why McDavid would be minus 167 and Draisaitl would be minus 111. That just seems like a value bet, and I guess Puljujarvi's playing with them too, so... that's just what I'm doing now on DraftKings.
Connor McDavid, let's just take for a minute to just see how ridiculous these odds are right now and what the Oilers are doing. Connor McDavid, minus 167 on two more points.
2 points.
That's what, Connor McDavid to get a point tonight, minus 167. You're getting 4-1 on a pointless game for Connor McDavid tonight. I mean, sooner or later, it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But the 3-point game over 2.5 is plus 260 for McDavid. It's 4-1 for Draisaitl. It's 8-1 for Puljujarvi. And honestly, if you've just been hammering those numbers all season long, which is basically what Dustin Nielsen has done, and I think he's going to put his kid through hockey for the next 5 years because of winning on Coolbet for the first few games of the season. It really is something what this Oilers team is doing. An offensive juggernaut unlike any we've seen in a long time. Guess the big question for winning games, are they going to be able to keep the puck out of their own net? They've been doing it well enough so far, and even when they get down 4-1, McDavid turns the Jets on, does something magical like we saw on Friday night, and they still win the game. So, a lot of interesting prop bets when it comes to the Oilers available right now. Let's take a quick look and see what they have for the Jets when it comes to player goals and player points. Quite interesting on this. The Kyle Connor to score is plus 120. Nikolai Ehlers is plus 190. Mm-hmm. Pierre-Luc Dubois is 2-1. Mark Scheifele plus 220. Don't mind that. We've it's been a little while since we've seen Scheifele more than 2-1 to score. But that's exactly where it is. And let's see what points are right now. Connor minus 200 for a point. Ehlers minus 156. And we don't see, I don't see a Scheifele number right now.
I don't know how they don't. We got to tell Chris Abbott to get Scheifele on the points.
I will.
On the points.
I'll make
What are they
call.
doing?
I'll make a call. Maybe they think he's a third liner right now. They can't post point props for Mark Scheifele tonight.
Must be what it is. I'm trying to look at multiple points. I guess 1.5 points. Ehlers plus 330. I mean, I'm not sure about that. So I agree. Scheifele seems to be overdue for a goal. 0 goals on the year. Mark Scheifele, you kidding me? So I like that one. I like that one there. And you said he was very cheap on the daily fantasy. So
he absolutely is.
A lot of games. We do have a couple. I guess we're winding down here. Oops. Let me get back to this.
Can we talk about the disaster, the debacle that Monday Night Football was last night?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we said I said the Steelers are going to win. I wasn't sure what the covering, but it was another case of the underdogs covering yesterday with the Bears Putting up a fight there at the end, but they got a little help, didn't they? Or no, didn't get help.
Did you see the penalties? Like, listen, full disclosure, I bet the Steelers -7. And my jaw was on the floor at some of the penalties that went against the Bears last night. And I'm here to tell you right now, this crackdown on taunting penalties has gone so far over the edge to the other side. It was unbelievable. I mean, a game-changing sack that put the Steelers deep in their own end with a 4th and 28. The taunting penalty that he got, including getting hip checked by the ref as he leaned back as if he was throwing a 3-pointer in an NBA game, tossing the flag, was maybe the most outrageous call we've seen all season long. And that was in the midst of a touchdown coming off the board. I mean, a number of things. And it seemed like every call went against the Bears. And keep in mind, I was not on the Bears. I wanted the Steelers to win. I wanted them to win running away. But I have to say, Reem, like the where we're at right now with these taunting penalties, and I know some people aren't into sports betting, but you know who is? The National Football League, the owners of the league. I mean, this is a huge source of revenue going forward, and you need to have public confidence in your product. And to put these judgment calls into the hands of referees that can massively swing games is, well, certainly coming out of last night's game, all anyone was talking about was the refereeing. Not the garbage special teams on both teams, the fumbles, the turnovers, all the wild stuff that happened in the game. It was the calls. And that's terrible if what they're hoping to do is grow their revenues by having more people participate in betting on NFL games. No one felt good betting on that one last night when they watched it on MNF.
I thought they put the taunting rule in so they can just call a penalty whenever they want, call it taunting, and fix the game. Isn't that what's going on there? I mean, the number one GIF of the game, you're right, number one GIF, whatever you want to call it, is Tori Coriente backing his ass up into that.
Shout out to Juvenile.
Yeah, into the Bears player who did the with the karate kick, and threw the flag, but he held his arm up in the air. I agree. He's going for a 3, long one. So I don't think they're going to do anything. I think we can complain all online and be mad here about these stupid taunting calls. But I mean, I don't know why nobody wants this. It's terrible. It sucks. We don't need, there's nothing more that needs to be said, but they got to get rid of it. It's I don't say idiotic, but it is to have that as a penalty. And
well, I mean, I'm fine with it being a penalty, but I mean, the threshold of how they're calling it this year is an absolute abomination, and it really is hurting the product, and it's hurting the integrity of the NFL. That being said, Steelers got a win. What a difference it was from 4 weeks ago. They're 1-3. We're saying they're done. Who can play quarterback? Because Ben Roethlisberger's finished. Ben is just about finished, though. I don't know if you saw him try and crawl for 2 yards last night. But yet they've won 4 in a row. It's kind of like last year when the Steelers, they stink. They don't have anything. They started off 9-0. Now it didn't finish well, but listen, I don't want to play that team in the playoffs. I don't want to play Mike Tomlin and that defense and TJ Watt. I mean, what a stud he is. Probably going to be the defensive player of the year. Either he or Diggs on the Dallas Cowboys. So we've got interesting Thursday nighter coming up. Talk about that more in the next couple days. We hit it on the lock shop. Dolphins hosting the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens are a 7.5-point favorite. But our focus tonight, Remo, is of course on the hockey. But coming out, quick wrestling note that we didn't mention yesterday, and I know Kabilis for sure is going to be fired up. Gregory is on. The stars of the WWE coming back to Winnipeg, and we are getting SmackDown on January 21st. Which, if my math is correct, probably just a week or two before the Royal Rumble, one of the biggest events of the year. So we're getting the good show. SmackDown far superior to what they've got going on Raw right now. And it's going to be great to get pro wrestling back in Winnipeg. I'll tell you what, as much as I'm pumped and a lot of people are pumped about WWE coming, what we really need is AEW with all those Winnipeggers, Kenny Omega, Don Callis' manager, Chris Jericho. I really hope that before Jericho's done, those two guys can go off at Bell MTS or at Canada Life Center. Heck, maybe even IG Field, somewhere in Winnipeg, because I think that could be a massive, massive event for the city, which is a big wrestling scene. I know not everyone is into it, but you're just not fans of high quality art and entertainment. That's not on me. That's on you. But it really is a great history of pro wrestling here in Winnipeg. Great history of pro wrestling in Winnipeg, and with so much Winnipeg content in AEW, which is really the brand that's hotter than anything in the world right now. It would be just so cool to see that come to the Peg.
Yeah, it had been so long, and then we had Raw here a couple of years ago. I had another function, so I wasn't able to attend. But to see like a TV taping, all the production, we've been to house shows. This isn't a house show. This is a televised national thing on Fox. So I'm gonna have to figure out,
start working on your signs already, Remo. You're gonna be sign guy.
I should make a sign. Yeah, that's right. I got to get my crayons, my markers. And,
we should get some tickets,
cardboard.
Get the gang back together. Who did we go with before? It was you and me. We hooked up with the OG, Gregory Liverpool. Was it Ezzy that was with us?
We went with Ezzy once, or Asor. I think we had a crew for wrestling. So I'm in. It's a good time. So yeah, I'm in for that. We did have some other notes. I don't know if you're into celebrity boxing. Did you see this one today? So there's
just hold on 1 sec just before we do that. Lots of comments coming in from this last little bit. Nickster, passive aggressive much us every now and then when I want to have some fun. Another T-Cone owned Kenny Omega, get the AEW to the Peg. That's T-Cone Apolli. And T Will says, with Jericho and Omega, how is AEW not coming to Winnipeg? And Justin F, Omega Jericho 3 needs to happen in Winnipeg. That would be so cool. But yes, there is another event happening in a ring that I have just found out about, Remis, and it sounds somewhat ridiculous, but considering what's happening in the world of boxing and quote celebrity boxing this year, I'm incredibly intrigued in this.
And so there's a fight card coming up. Jake Paul against someone named Tommy
Fury.
Yeah,
I think that's the brother of Tyson Fury.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, they've been going at it on the gram and maybe TikTok or something.
So one of the
lot of heat
one of the undercard fights, and we talked about him yesterday because we were talking about Adrian Peterson, but Frank Gore is going to step in the ring. NFL legend running back Frank Gore in the boxing ring with former NBA. I think he was an all-star. I mean, he was great in college.
Oh, yeah.
I had him on fantasy like every year. He's always one of my top picks. Darren Williams. So that's the fight.
Frank Gore is the most indestructible human being on planet Earth. How he played, was it 15 years as an NFL running back?
Gore, yeah.
And now he's done getting his head bashed in by NFL linebackers, and he's going to step in the boxing ring. So I'll be going for Gore. I'll be going for Gore on that. I don't know. Do we have a line yet on that?
I don't know. Gore's 38.
Have to find it out. Who's the favorite?
Gore's 38. Williams is 37. I think Williams is a bit taller, maybe has a bigger reach. The fight's for 4 rounds, 215 pounds. I don't know. Williams apparently been training. One of my friends texted this to me. Oh, these guys are fighting. And I'm just like, I'm in. And he's like, yeah, me too. Like, this is the stupidest thing ever. But like, people are going to text me, where can I see this? Texting me like the day, where people can I see this?
I don't care about TikTokers going at it, but I am fully in on retired professional athletes fighting each other. Sure. I mean, there is just no doubt. I mean, remember there was the Beef Wolski tried to do the Battle of the Enforcers. It was basically a contest of like hockey fighting. That obviously was ridiculous, but I would be in to see. I mean, you want to get a couple of the old enforcers actually in a boxing ring? I'll watch that. And these cross sport. I mean, an NBA guy against an NFL guy, completely here for it. And maybe the next step of this, Reem, would be to get some of the biggest rivalries in sports of guys that really hated each other over the course of the years, and then hit them up and get them in the ring. I have no idea if there's any legit beef between Williams and Frank Gore, or this has just been sort of put together. But anyways, I think that if this celebrity boxing can continue going forward, I guess you can have like the social media people and the TikTok people, if they've got a big enough following, they'll go in and people will watch it. But for the average sports fans, you need to have recognizable athletes from the day. And Gore, Williams, 1. I'm completely in for it, and frankly, I hope to see more of it. Bryson versus Brooks, exactly, Theo. Listen, you could fill T-Mobile Arena for that if that was ever happening.
Yeah. The one thing that's crazy is these fights, I think there's a lot of money to be made on them. I mean, people are buying them
because we're gonna watch it.
Yeah. And then you tune in to see Jake Paul. I don't know. Jake Paul's got a lot of fans. So wait, is it Jake Paul? I get them mixed up, but one of them.
Well, they both were boxing. I mean,
Yeah.
Logan Paul fought Mayweather. This is Jake Paul.
Yes,
Jake Paul's going back in. So, anyways, there's your celebrity boxing update to finish up a game day edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, there is a game. We're past 3. We do want to get these pods up because we know a lot of people are going to be listening to it on the way to Canada Life Center today. Big thanks to Lou Korac for joining us. Great to catch up again with Josh Green. And thanks to all of you for making us a part of your day. Knuckles and Huss in the ring. Are you kidding me? I'd want to be his manager. Or he could be my manager if I ever got in. But listen, I don't think either Knuckles or I are in the shape right now to get in the ring. But listen, maybe we could be the commentary team for a Winnipeg celebrity boxing issue. If you did miss, we talked a lot about Bob Irving, the legendary voice of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, calling it a career at the end of this season. That was about the first 15 minutes of the program. If you did miss it, please check that out. Hey, the guy, we throw the word legend around and GOAT a lot, but make no mistake about it. Bob Irving is that in the city of Winnipeg for Blue Bomber fans and sports fans, really for the last 50 years in the spot. So make sure to check that out. We wish him the best going forward. And of course, it's on to tonight. Jets and Blues. Can't wait for tomorrow. Gonna have a great show tomorrow. Roth's gonna join us. We will break down what we saw tonight, and Dave Poulin as well, with a big show on a non-game day to get the latest from the Jets. And we'll also pick Pooley's brain on what he's seeing going on around the National Hockey League. Once again, thanks to our newest sponsor. Great to have Vita Health Fresh Market on board with us, along with our friends at Culligan Water, Manitoba Battery, Little Brown Jug Brewing, Royal Sports, Not Autocorp, Princess Auto, Canadian Club. Don't forget the 44, the special edition, less than 70 bottles available in Manitoba, but it is available right now. The Nick and Nicky DQ, Boston Pizza, our great friends at Princess Auto, and of course, Coolbet Canada. If you are betting CFL, make sure to go to Twitter at Coolbet Canada. It's their pinned tweet. They'll give you all the information on how all you need to do is take a screenshot of your bet slip, and you can be entered to win tickets to the big game in Hamilton on the 12th of December. Thanks to everyone who hung around till the end on YouTube. Thanks to everyone listening on the podcast. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow, 1:00 p.m. right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Enjoy the game, folks.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.